The wind carries secrets across the great expanse of the Egyptian desert. It whispers through the dunes, grinding ancient quartz into a fine, blinding dust. For millennia, humanity has looked upon the Giza plateau with a mixture of awe and profound ignorance. We told ourselves comforting stories to push back the terror of the unknown. We spoke of pharaohs and slaves, of whips cracking under a merciless sun. We spoke of chisels and copper saws hacking away at impossible stone. We built an entire academic religion upon the frail foundation of human sweat and ingenuity. But the desert knows the truth. And recently, a voice pierced the global consciousness, shattering the carefully constructed illusion. A modern titan of industry, a merchant of rockets and electric dreams, cast a stone into the placid waters of our collective delusion. He declared, with the casual arrogance of his era, that the pyramids were not built by human hands. He suggested they were the work of architects from beyond the stars. In the modern age of digital noise, such a statement should have been a fleeting amusement. It should have been swallowed by the relentless, churning tide of mundane news. Instead, it struck a resonant chord deep within the bedrock of the earth. It echoed in the hollow, forgotten chambers beneath the Sphinx. And most chillingly of all, it provoked a response from those who guard the oldest secrets of the Nile. The authorities of the modern Egyptian state did not laugh at this provocation. They did not issue a simple, dismissive press release. They fell utterly silent. And in that suffocating silence, a terrifying confirmation began to take shape. To understand the true nature of this revelation, we must peel back the layers of our comforting history. We must discard the textbooks that blind us to the ancient dark. We must stand at the base of the Great Pyramid at the witching hour, when the sun has long surrendered to the void. Look upon the colossal blocks of limestone and granite that blot out the constellations. Trace your eyes along the ridges that point relentlessly toward the heavens. There is a mathematics here that defies the primitive tools of the Bronze Age. It is a geometry of madness. The angles are too perfect, mocking the organic imperfections of nature. The alignment with true north is too precise for a species that had barely learned to write. The sheer mass of the structure mocks the limitations of flesh, bone, and timber. Each block weighs as much as a modern locomotive, yet they are stacked mountain high. They are fitted together with a tolerance so microscopic that not even a razor's edge can penetrate the joints. This is not the architecture of a mausoleum built for a dead king. This is the architecture of an anchor, designed to hold something colossal in place. There are legends passed down in hushed whispers among the oldest Bedouin tribes, tales older than the dynasties, older than the Fertile Crescent itself, tales of the times before the deluge, when the sky was a bruised purple and the stars burned with a malevolent light. They speak of the stellar architects. These beings did not arrive in vessels of metal and fire. They descended through jagged tears in the very fabric of reality. They were towering entities, possessing a terrible alien grace. Their limbs were impossibly elongated, moving with the slow deliberation of deep-sea predators. Their skin resembled cold, dark basalt, completely devoid of warmth or moisture. It was etched with microscopic, agonizing scars that resembled cuneiform script. They had no mouths to speak, communicating through a localized distortion of gravity. Their eyes were not organs of sight, but swirling vortexes of void black shadow. They brought with them a science indistinguishable from the darkest cosmic magic. They commanded the electromagnetic fields of the planet like a maestro conducting an orchestra. They did not carve the stones of Giza with copper tools. They sang them into place. They vibrated the molecular structure of the earth until the bedrock yielded to their will, softening like clay. The Great Pyramid was never meant to house the dead. It is a machine. It is a dormant engine of terrestrial suppression. Its purpose was to stabilize the shifting crust of a volatile world, binding the planet's core to the celestial rhythms of Orion. For thousands of years, this horrific truth was kept sealed away from fragile human minds. It was buried deep beneath the paws of the Sphinx, hidden in the deepest reaches of the black vaults. Only a select, cursed few were ever burdened with this knowledge. The keeper of the vault is a man broken by the weight of eternity. His skin is like dry, cracked parchment, ruined by centuries of subterranean dampness. His eyes are hollow, exhausted pools of dread, weighed down by dark, heavy bags. He wears a ragged 19th century archaeologist's trench coat over a stained, heavily embroidered galabea. He wanders the subterranean corridors with a flickering lantern, casting long, grotesque shadows against the walls. His existence is a secret kept even from the highest echelons of his own mortal government. But when the billionaire's words echoed across the globe via satellites, the Keeper knew the time of silence had ended. The statement, broadcast into the ether, was not merely an ignorant opinion. It was an accidental incantation. Speaking the truth of the architects aloud, amplifying it across the globe, served as a frequency signal. The Ministry of Antiquities convened an emergency council in the dead of night, panic etched on their faces. They descended into the forgotten vaults, bypassing modern security for ancient, rusted iron doors. They found the Keeper standing perfectly still before a fractured obsidian stone tablet. The tablet predates the earliest known dynasties by tens of thousands of violent years. It is inscribed with the true history of the Orion Protocol, the master plan of the celestial builders. The government officials read the desperate translations by the flickering lantern light. They realized the horrifying, inescapable reality of their situation. The billionaire had unwittingly initiated the final waking cycle. The collective vibrations of billions of voices discussing the alien origins of the pyramids acted as an acoustic trigger. Deep within the suffocating darkness of the king's chamber, a low hum has begun. It is a sound felt deep in the teeth and marrow, rather than heard by the ears. The massive granite sarcophagus is vibrating, shedding millennia of accumulated dust. The ambient temperature in the lower, unexplored shafts has dropped to near absolute zero. The electromagnetic field surrounding the Giza plateau is violently contorting. Birds fall dead from the sky if they fly too close to the electrified apex of the monument. Modern electronic devices fail completely within miles of the necropolis. The Egyptian government has not issued a denial because they are too paralyzed by cosmic fear to speak. They are desperately trying to reinforce the ancient wards hidden beneath the sand. They are pouring thousands of tons of modern concrete into the lower tunnel systems. But it is a pathetic, futile effort against the masters of gravity. The colossal stones of the Great Pyramid are beginning to shift. They are realigning themselves, grinding against each other with deafening shrieks. The invisible mortar that held them for epochs is cracking. The stellar architects are stirring in the deep, freezing cosmic void. They feel the sudden, violent tug of their ancient terrestrial anchor. They know their monument has been remembered by the insignificant insects crawling upon it. The sky above Cairo is taking on a sickly, luminescent, bruised hue. The stars of Orion burn with an unnatural, piercing intensity tonight. The Keeper of the Vault sits alone in the oppressive dark, tightly clutching his lantern. He listens to the catastrophic grinding of the colossal stones far above his head. He knows that all of human history was nothing but a brief, insignificant intermission. The age of humanity, with our petty wars and fragile egos, is drawing to a violent close. The architects are returning to reclaim their magnificent, terrible engine. And when the pyramid fully activates, unleashing the power of the Orion Protocol, the world will be remade. It will be reshaped in their impossible, nightmarish image. The burning sands will swallow the modern cities of steel and glass. The oceans will boil away under the new alien sky. The forbidden truth was spoken aloud. The ancient, unbreakable seal is broken. We are no longer alone in the dark. We are no longer the masters of this world. We never were. Step closer to the colossal shadow that stains the Giza plateau. Leave the comforting warmth of the desert sun behind. As you cross the threshold into the Great Pyramid, the temperature drops with an unnatural, sudden violence. The air inside is dead, heavy with the weight of suspended epochs. Conventional archaeology speaks of ramps, sledges, and the sweat of 10,000 laborers. They ask you to believe that a mountain of solid granite was arranged by primitive men with copper chisels. But stand before the ascending passage and let your eyes trace the masonry. The deception of human history crumbles instantly. There is no mortar here holding these monolithic stones together. They are joined with a microscopic precision that mocks the chaotic nature of the physical world. You cannot slip the edge of a razor blade, nor a single sheet of parchment between blocks that weigh as much as modern locomotives. This is not the work of organic hands. This is absolute, cold, mathematical tyranny imposed upon the Earth. Consider the alignment of this monument. It points perfectly to true north, anchored to the rotational axis of our planet with a terrifying exactitude. It is an alignment so flawless that modern architects equipped with laser precision struggle to replicate it. Yet we are told this was achieved by exhausted mortals with plumb bobs and simple stargazing. The geometry within these walls does not seek to comfort the human eye. It seeks to disorient, to crush, and to completely dominate the fragile mind. Venture deeper into the belly of the beast, dragging yourself up the suffocating incline of the Grand Gallery. Look up at the massive corbelled ceiling ascending into the pitch-black darkness. The angles of the stone are overtly hostile. They press inward, creating a terrifying optical illusion that the walls are slowly collapsing to grind trespassing bone into dust. The acoustics in this endless corridor are profoundly unnatural. A quiet whisper at the base of the gallery is caught, distorted, and carried to the apex as a low, mocking, subsonic groan. This space was never designed for the soft chanting of priests or the lamentations for a dead god-king. It is a brutal, resonant chamber, meticulously tuned to frequencies that induce severe nausea and deep primal dread in the human brain. And then you reach the suffocating heart of the anomaly, the King's Chamber, a sterile, brutalist void constructed entirely of dark, unyielding rose granite transported from hundreds of miles away. Each monolithic slab, suspended in the pitch-black ceiling above you, weighs over 70 tons. They hang there, defying gravity, held in place by an invisible, terrifying architectural tension. In the absolute center of this windowless room sits the lidless box. Historians desperately call it a sarcophagus to maintain their comforting illusions, but it bears no inscriptions, no painted hieroglyphs, no desperate prayers for the afterlife. It is roughly hewn on the outside, yet bored and polished to a flawless, mirror-like perfection on the inside. The marks within the stone prove it was hollowed out with a tubular drill, possessing a feed rate hundreds of times faster than modern diamond-tipped machinery. It is not a coffin meant to house decaying flesh. It is a highly advanced containment vessel. It is a dormant machine component, waiting in the dark for its cosmic core to be returned. The geometry of this place is a dark, alien language we were never meant to decipher. It is the complex mathematics of the deep cosmos, weaponized and rendered in immovable stone. It is the undeniable fingerprint of the stellar architects, left as a chilling monument to our own utter insignificance. To deeply study the dimensions of the Great Pyramid is to stare directly into an abyss of cosmic madness. And the true horror is that if you stare long enough, the impossible angles begin to make perfect, terrifying sense. The modern world expects a predictable theater of public relations. When an eccentric billionaire casts a shadow over established history, the script dictates a swift, academic dismissal. We expected the Ministry of Antiquities to issue a scornful press release. We expected archaeologists to parade their polished copper chisels and wooden sledges for the television cameras. We expected the comforting blanket of orthodoxy to extinguish the sudden spark of cosmic dread, but the microphones remained dead. The official channels of the Egyptian government went completely, terrifyingly silent. It was not the silence of arrogant dismissal, but the paralyzing silence of a trapped animal. Behind the closed, heavy mahogany doors of Cairo's bureaucratic fortresses, absolute panic reigned. For centuries, the highest echelons of power had inherited a terrible, secret mandate. They were the unwitting wardens of a prison they did not understand. And now, the wardens realized the inmates had heard their names spoken aloud across the global ether. The decision was made in the dead of night, driven by a fear so profound, it stripped away all political artifice. A convoy of unmarked, heavily armored vehicles departed the city under the cover of a starless sky. They did not head towards the polished, tourist-filled entrances of the Great Pyramid. They drove off the mapped roads, churning the desert sand beneath their heavy treads. They stopped before the colossal, eroded paws of the Great Sphinx. The soldiers did not stand guard. They turned their backs to the monument, terrified to look at what they were protecting. The officials descended into the suffocating, unmapped earth. They bypassed modern electronic security gates for ancient, deeply rusted iron wheels and heavy chains. They were entering the Black Vaults. This is a subterranean abyss that does not exist on any geological survey. It is a place where the air is thick with the smell of ozone and crushed bone. In the deepest, darkest chamber, lit only by the sputtering, desperate flame of an old oil lantern, they found him, the keeper of the vault. He is a man who was stripped of his name and his humanity decades ago. He wears a ragged, filthy trench coat over an ancient galabea, his skin resembling the dry, cracked parchment he guards. His eyes are hollow, exhausted pools of dread that have stared into the abyss for far too long. The officials found him trembling, his ancient hands tightly clutching a heavy, fractured object. It was not a papyrus scroll or a clay pot. It was a jagged slab of pure, pitch-black obsidian stone. The surface of the stone was practically vibrating with a cold, malevolent energy. It was etched with the same microscopic, agonizing cuneiform scars that mark the basalt skin of the stellar architects. The keeper did not bow to the government officials. He simply laid the fractured tablet upon a heavy oak table, the stone scraping against the wood with a deafening screech. This was the true, forbidden history of the planet, a history that completely obliterates the fragile, comforting timelines of human evolution. The fragmented text detailed the arrival of the architects, not as benevolent gods, but as cosmic engineers. It spoke of the Earth as a volatile, broken sphere that needed to be forcibly pinned down. It detailed the construction of the Giza complex as a massive, heavy iron anchor. But most terrifying of all was the final jagged etching on the obsidian slab. It was not a record of the past, but a mechanical protocol for the future. It described a waking cycle, a global acoustic resonance, a specific frequency of mass human awareness that would signal the ancient engine to restart. The billionaire's casual broadcast had not just theorized the truth, it had unwittingly struck the tuning fork of the apocalypse. The keeper looked up at the terrified officials, his voice a dry, rasping whisper of absolute doom. The seal is broken, and the earth is beginning to hum.